You're listening to episode 278 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Well, hello and welcome to today's Small and Supercharged podcast. It's a solo with me and we're going to go right back to the beginning of a business journey today. We're going to think about how we can get started on our business journey when we've just got that sparkle of an idea that we don't know how to develop, because obviously I deal with quite a lot of people who have got more established businesses. I do also deal with some startups, and I deal with people who are looking to expand into different areas or to try different things. And even when we're looking to expand into different areas or to start additional businesses or to kind of dip our toe into different industries and different areas, it can feel like starting all over again. And we get really used to knowing how things work, knowing how to do what we want to do, and then we're kind of greeted by things that we don't kind of recognize again. The thing is, if you've gone down this journey before, these are things, ideas, problems you've overcome and conquered. But if you haven't, it can be really overwhelming to know where to start. So I wanted to talk to you today about this, about how to get started. You know, it's January still, and there's lots of people who are perhaps looking at their life, thinking about their goals, where they want to be in, and thinking that maybe starting their own business or starting a side hustle to develop into their own business is a good idea. And I'm hoping that today's podcast is going to give you some ideas for around how you can develop this idea, how you can test this concept, how you can start to take those steps forward to get where you want to be. But before we get started, I'm going to give a big old shout out to Mastermind. This is my group coaching membership. Each month we do marketing masterclasses, mindset masterclasses, social media trainings. We do social media critiques. We have a weekly live coaching, Q&A, and loads of other things besides. And if you are looking to either develop an existing business, if you're looking to start a business, if you're just looking for some help, support, ideas, and a brilliant community that can help drive your business forward by supporting you and educating you, brainstorming ideas, then Mastermind is absolutely the place you need to be. So head on over to riafreemanpr.co.uk and you'll see Small and Supercharged Mastermind across the top. Fill in that application form and I will be back in touch with you super quickly, and we can get you in the group, integrate into the community, and look at lots of really, really cool things. We also do a weekly What's Coming Up newsletter, and the trainings go on to an exclusive Mastermind podcast. So even if you're out and about, you can benefit too. But let's get on with today's podcast now, all about how to get started. So you've got an idea, you've got a little tiny spark of an idea, and you're kind of excited about it, kind of a bit scared. What do you do now? Well, step one, I would always say to people, is to research that idea. So if you've had this thought, then do the work. Are there people that do something similar? Are there people that do something similar in different industries, in the same industry? What do they do? Also, you can think about researching the cost of materials. You can think about the outlets that you could sell your product or service through. And just put the work in. So when you are working through this idea in your head more, maybe you're even speaking to someone else about it, you've got a really strong case, for want of a better expression. You don't have to have a case. You don't have to plead your case for anybody. But so you can start to see what's going on. And particularly if you're speaking to somebody else about it, you're kind of answering those questions that you might be asked as well. So start to develop this idea. What could it look like? What could it be? What would it become? And don't get too bogged down in the detail at this stage. Sometimes we can spend weeks, perfecting what pink we're using on a logo, but actually the bones of the business aren't there. So although it's great to have the right color pink, obviously, it's not going to make or break your business. Having a product, having a plan is. So you get started on that, and you can then start to think about the cost of the product, because if it's a product, then you have obviously got the cost to make the product or buy the product in or do whatever you're doing. So start to look at those costs, the proper costs, buying it in, if you're having to post it out, any other heating, any other bills that you would incur through doing your business, and start to look at those. Because again, we sometimes hear of people who have started small businesses and side hustles that they know it costs them X to buy the product in, so therefore if they sell it for X plus a bit more, then that's great. Or if they buy the kind of ingredients in for X, let's say £10, then actually as long as they sell it for over £10, it's a win. But that's not a win, because if it's taking you 4 hours to create it and you're selling it at £12, you're valuing your time at 50 pence an hour. That's not a sustainable business at all. That's a hobby, and absolutely have hobbies, but that's not a sustainable business. So when you're thinking about the costs, do research on what similar products sell for or similar services sell for, but also think really hard and honestly about the time that this is going to take you, because this stuff needs to be factored in if you're looking to make it into a sustainable business. It's boring, but it's the truth, because you could do really, really well selling something for next to nothing, and you could be, making £1 profit per item. But actually, by the time you've driven yourself down to the post office, it's costing you money to do it. You need to make sure you're building in the correct margins so you have got a viable business. So when someone buys something from you, it's worth it. Look at what competitors are doing as well, but don't be persuaded in this race to the bottom that so many people get really obsessed by. And if you're buying a product that's available everywhere, if it's what am I looking at the moment? If it's a pen, a very specific kind of pen, and everyone's selling that very specific brand name of pen, then you may have to compete on price. But if you're doing something different, unique, special, handmade, bespoke, or it's you as a service, there's not another you out there. There's not another you that does the bespoke things that you do, perhaps with the materials that you do. And therefore, whilst it's great to get a bit of a temperature check on the environment and what people are willing to pay, that doesn't mean that you should be trying to be cheaper. There are lots of businesses that do a brilliant job of actually being one of the most expensive. There are some great businesses out there, if you think about just standard products, that charge a premium for them. They are more special, perhaps they're made from a slightly different fabric, they've developed their brand really, really well, but you go there because you want quality and service. So you could go down that route, but you need to make sure you've built this in. So do that work, do the sums, and then you can start to think about your target audience and really do some good research on them as well. Social media is a brilliant place to be doing this research. It's free, it's easy, there are loads of groups, and you can start to look at your target audience and understand their pain points and how your product or service can fit into that. And also looking at the, I want to say validity, I'm pretty sure that's a word, of the idea. What you have created, what you're offering, is there a need for that? Can you see that people have got issues that your product or service can solve? So start doing some testing as well. And you could ask questions in Facebook groups, particularly if you are a member there. You can ask anonymous questions if you don't want to say who you are. That can be a really good source of market research. You can run questionnaires. You can speak to friends and family if they're your target audience. And that's a big if, because if they're not your target audience, it's a waste of your time. If they think it's great, brilliant, but they're not your buyers. If they think it's bad, okay, but they're not your buyers either. So make sure that you do any market research you do, any focus groups you do, anything that you do, you're doing it to the right people. And if you do it on your if maybe you've got an Instagram account and you want to do some polls, it might be useful asking what kind of age range people are in or whether they would buy that kind of product before you start asking other questions, because you want to make sure that their answers are valuable to you in this situation. So now we've sort of thought about our target audience, we've worked through the concept of the idea, we've come up with some pricing. We could then look at what we need to do to get started on a small scale. So how can we properly test this idea, keeping in mind what we said about the price, the target audience, and the desire for the product? So how can we test it? What outlets are there that would allow us to test it? If it's a service-based business, could you test with a client? If it's a product-based business, where could you sell the products? Could you sell it through your social media? Could you sell it through other third-party websites for now? Could you go to a local craft fair, or could you speak to a local shop who sell things from independent creators and could they sell it? So start to look at your routes to market and do work on them. Look at which ones are going to work the best for you. And then start doing some of the work. Start looking into what you can do, how you can do it, and start testing your processes and your products and get them out into the world, because you need to get these things tested. You need to get people out there, and you need to start, even if you start with one product, one client, one service, you will learn a huge amount through doing that. And there is that point when we always need to take that jump, even if it does feel a teeny bit terrifying. We also need to think about how we're going to promote what we do. And social media is a brilliant way to do that. Obviously, it's free. Obviously, it can be great. And now you know your target audience as well. You can make sure that you're on those platforms and you're creating relevant content for them. You can also look at following inspiring accounts. Maybe these are competitors in different industries. Maybe not competitors in different industries, but people that do a very similar thing in different industries. Maybe it's influencers in your space that you might like to work with. Maybe it's accounts from other spaces that just give you inspiration, and you can look at their business journey and perhaps apply some of their learnings to you. You can start to research your competitors this way as well as through the places that they sell, their own websites, and all those things as well. As you develop a bit, you might also want to look at things like your own website. We know how valuable having your own corner of the internet is, and that you're not then reliant on other people, whether that's through social media or through fees of third-party sellers. You've got your own hub, and you can always weave that in with starting a mailing list as well. There are lots of free providers for that, as well as ones that you do pay for. I used to be with MailChimp. I'm now with Flowdesk, because the amount doesn't go up no matter how many subscribers I have. But if you're looking to get started, there are some really strong free options out there that can just get you into the idea of building that list and communicating with your customers. You could also start to look at, we've obviously talked about social media, but you could also look at maybe gifting items to people that you know to get them to test them, or to get them to promote them through social as well, like an influencer would. When you're doing all of these things though, you will start and you will feel horribly exposed and horribly vulnerable, and you may get people giving you useful feedback about, well, not really useful feedback, let's be honest, but feedback all the same, called for or not. And it might make you doubt your journey, or you might be doubting it yourself. But that's okay. You're just trying something. You're learning, you're trying. It doesn't mean you have to resign from your job the first day you try. You could grow it as a side hustle. I know that's quite an American term, but it's a good term. Until you get to the point, if you want to, where you could maybe go part-time or go full-time in the business. But you don't have to do that to start with. And actually, for testing the water, you don't need to. You can start testing little bit by little bit. You will have to accept that some of the things you put out there, when you review them in a few years' time, you'll think, oh my good God, what was I thinking? But that is okay. That is all part of learning. But you need to get started. You can get started at such a small cost. It used to be you'd need a graphic designer to do this, and this. Graphic designers are awesome. If you're on a low budget, Canva is flipping incredible. To do your social media posts, even logo templates they've got. Of course, they'll be like a lot of other people's, but it's a great place to get started, to test the concept at zero cost. You can do all of the research for free online at home. So instead of your TikTok scrolling time, might just be me, but pretty sure it's not, you can use that to do your research. You can get started from nothing. And you can just start to see what's working, what isn't working, and taking all those learnings and then applying them to the next iteration, the next version of what you're going to do. I think we expect to just be perfect out the gate. We expect an idea to be a success or a failure in an instant, and that's just not the case. It's not the way it works. You have to try, hone, evolve, adapt, all of these things all of the time. But the key is, if you want to do something like this, you've got to get started. Even if it scares the life out of you, you've got to get started. And when you move more into the marketing side and how to promote yourself, even with a teeny tiny budget, of course, I'm going to give my book a shout out as well. head over to Amazon, Small and Supercharged. But there are loads of different ways that you can do this for very, very little money as well. You don't need to have a huge influx of cash to be able to test a concept, to market your business to the point where you can see if it's working or not. You can do this for very little money. You need to put the time in, but the whole point of when you start a business or you start a side hustle is that you've got to have that passion there, because it is hard, particularly if you're working a full-time job. You've got to then find evenings and weekends to do this. You've got to be creative. You need to have that passion there. Otherwise, it's going to be a really, really hard slog. So you need that there. But beyond that, you don't need much. But if you've got that spark, then why not nurture it? Why not see where it goes? Regardless of the outcome, you're going to learn a lot. Hopefully you'll have a lot of fun, and it might develop into something really, really cool as well. I hope that's been helpful. I'd love to know your thoughts. Are you just thinking of starting a business? Have you just started a business? Or maybe you're thinking of expanding your current business into different areas. I'd love your thoughts. I'll be posting about this obviously over on Instagram. I'd love to see you over there. And please, if you've got a couple of minutes, well, a couple of seconds even, do rate and review the podcast. It really, really helps people to know it's good to listen to. And if you enjoy it, it would be great if you shared a little bit of that love via rating and reviewing as well. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that's been helpful, and we'll catch up really soon. Bye.